1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can you talk?
ZXYWVUTSRQPONNLKJISGFED
Okay, you always have to do that.
CBA, because no one else can.
Okay, I'll learn it one day.
We have 4 pages of things we want to ask you.
I want you to ask me anything that you thought perhaps was maybe half explained on the documentary, or anything that you think people might be curious about, because obviously you know me so well.
I think you're going to be very interested in the questions we ask. We get
Are we rolling now?
Yeah, we are.
If you guys haven't already guessed by his iconic voice, we wrote a little introduction for you. So
Did you really?
We did.
Okay.
Today, we have an extremely special episode for you guys. Not only are we bringing back a highly requested guest, but this guest is also giving us an exclusive, in-depth interview about his new Netflix documentary that came out on November 3rd. If you haven't already guessed it, sitting here with us today is none other than our dad, Sylvester Stallone. Studio audience.
And the studio audience is just Jennifer Stallone sitting in the background.
Is she flopping around?
She's flopping.
Yeah, she is Floppy Bird right now.
My good luck charm.
This is just so surreal. By the way, thank you so much for doing this and coming on our show. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but you know.
Oh, of course, girl.
We appreciate this.
I find this to be quite interesting, because the documentary turned out to be somewhat of a surprise.
Yeah.
Because I cannot take credit for anything other than just answering the questions that the director asked.
Right.
And as honestly as I could. And what was so interesting is, you know, when you're going to do an interview, and I certainly have done a lot, you sort of prepare yourself. But what was so unique is I'd be walking down the hall and he'd start asking questions, and there's no makeup, no hair, anything.
Right.
And you're just going to get a coffee. And like what anyone would normally do, you start talking and you become completely unself-conscious because, oh, you're like this, as opposed to, oh my God, I have to sit in the chair,
right,
and I have to look this way, and the questions are more formal. He was very brilliant, Tom. His name was Tom Zimmy, and I gave him all the credit.
Yeah, he did an incredible job. I mean, Christine, I've watched it a couple times, and even now we still are affected by it. And we did read the headlines, and it was alternatively illuminating and evasive. Another called it reflective and vulnerable. And I feel like a lot of times in your career, with a lot of the things you put out there, the reviews are very polarizing. It can either go one way or the other way. So how did it feel hearing such positive reviews back on something that is very personal to you?
Well, obviously it's somewhat of a shock, because it's not often I get gratifying reviews. And I think it was also a little frustrating, because I thought, God, you would think after 50 years people would know you. And then I realized perhaps I really haven't shown a lot of myself in cinema of who I really am.
Well, to their point, Sophie and I watched the documentary several times, and to be quite honest, there was a lot of things in this documentary that we were shocked to find out about you. And I've known you for about 25 years, so I thought I knew everything about you. But it really did show a great insight into your brain of why you do the things you do, why you wrote the lines you wrote, what your feelings were in certain scenes. And that's what I think people weren't understanding before. And I guess kind of the big question is, why now? Why make a documentary now? People already know your rags to riches stories, how you started, where you became. So why now at your age did you feel the need, I actually want to share this with people?
That's a good question, because I didn't feel this overwhelming impulse. Matter of fact, it was something that I shied away from, because I thought, everyone does know pretty much. If they don't know me by now, I must have done 1,000 television interviews. But I said, the one thing I haven't done, and a lot of actors don't, is why you are the way you are. Why do I gravitate towards a certain character as opposed to that other one that would perhaps be more popular? What dark side pulls you in, and then what other side, the bright side, which is the rocky side. So it was kind of an exploration that I didn't want to take, because I sort of knew the answer, and it all starts when you're very young, when you're a child. And and I think I said it in the documentary that people don't realize how impressionable and vulnerable when you're young. You are, like I said, soft clay. And I grew up in a really bad household. It was tough. I don't want to sit there and throw aspersions and this and that, but it was not a household. Everyone was extremely unhappy with who they were.
Right.
Meaning my mother and father, they certainly weren't parents. In other words, they said, oh, I can't wait to raise a happy, normal family, when both of them were completely discontent with who they were. And you think, okay, is this what it's really like? Because, girls, believe it or not, I spent the first 5 years in a boarding house in Jackson Heights. And for a lot of people that don't know what a boarding house is, it's basically a couple of bedrooms and run by an older woman. And it's not a flop house, but it's transient. Salesmen coming in, stewardesses, people that are on the move. And I'd sit at this table with adults, and I'm 4 years old, and no one talked to me, and I just look around, and I'm going, I have no one to really relate to. And then the next day, they'd be gone, and it'd be another stranger, and another stranger. And I think it truly affected the way I interacted with people. I was kind of a loner because of that reason.
Well, there was a really interesting point that you made in your documentary that I don't think a lot of people picked up on, but I did. You had said that your mom was nervous to have you. She didn't want you,
Not at
right?
all.
And I thought to myself, you quite literally came into the world unwanted.
Oh, yeah.
And your first experience of life was you felt this negative energy. I don't want this kid. Your dad wasn't excited. Your mom wasn't excited. Did you ever, as a child, feel that at any moment when you were cognizant enough to understand, oh, wow, I actually don't feel loved, feel anything?
It's odd because the earmarks are there. I'm a little hesitant, but too incredibly repetitive because it was told to me so many times. My mother would say, the only reason you're here is because the hanger didn't work. Or bouncing down those steps didn't cause you to get lost. And she said that, truthfully, Sylvester, and believe it or not, they called me Binky because there was a hairbrush called the Binky brush. And for some reason, it said Binky. If there was really something wrong with your brain, I would have definitely opened up the window and put you on the windowsill and let you freeze. Because I'd be doing you a favor. And then, your brain is too young to compute. I almost thought she was joking.
Yeah, of course.
Kind of
Well, yeah, I
thing.
mean, what type of mother says that to their child? I mean, that's actually something we've been questioning when we were watching the documentary. Is between us, we all know, the abuse you went through with your mother, but
Yeah.
and we definitely want to dive into your father's psyche and like the why he did the things he did to you and how it affected your, creative process and your future.
Right.
But what was the decision of leaving your mother out when she had just as much impact on your upbringing as he did?
I thought it would be too much for the audience. I thought that they would say, he's making this up, or perhaps he's looking for sympathy. Because it's, when you're young, you're kind of naive and foolish. You go, maybe everyone's mother is like this.
Right.
I never really hung out with other people, so I didn't know what a happy home was. I thought this is normal, modus operandi.
Right.
But as I got older, I realized there was some critically bad behavior going on, and then as I got older, I realized perhaps they are just a product of their upbringing.
Yeah.
Which wasn't necessarily so, but I kept thinking, maybe they're... But my mother was... she was a troubled person. She was put into an orphanage, you know, and a very cruel orphanage because her father had remarried, and the new stepmother hated her. And I think my mother was also kind of rebellious. So she was put into an orphanage that it's unlike the ones they have today. It was, you know, you're tied to the bed, you're whipped, and she was terribly molested.
Wow.
And I think her ability to ever show love was short-circuited. She literally couldn't stand to be touched or touch at all. I mean, not even a hug.
As a child, though,
Yeah.
touch is the most important thing you can give a
Yeah.
kid.
Right.
So how did her lack of touch towards you, skin-on-skin contact, affect you long term? I mean, did it affect the way that you view meaningful relationships or developing even friendships with people? How did their lack of being available to you carry with you long term?
Well, I could tell, you could ask my wife, I didn't like being touched. I couldn't handle it. Any sort of affection, touch like this, it was so alien that it made me incredibly uncomfortable. And I've just literally come to terms with, of course, your mother, which I love now, but she'll tell you for years.
Right.
I just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We remember just holidays alone, how uncomfortable even growing up it made you. I mean, you had to truly relearn how to have a healthy relationship when mom came into the picture and having a family because you weren't used to,
Yeah, do you remember?
Normalcy.
I didn't like Christmas. I
No.
didn't Thanksgiving.
Board games.
No.
Forget
Actually, in Rocky, that's when I wrote one of the lines where Adrian comes out. He goes, "But it's a special day. It's Thanksgiving." I said, to me, it's Thursday.
Right.
And that's the way, that's true
True. Yeah.
Well,
to me.
what I think a lot of people loved throughout this documentary is how many hidden messages you explained that were in your dialogue. For example, one of my favorite ones, and I had no idea,
Okay.
was when Mickey comes to your door
Yeah.
and you did a take and then you did another take, and that second take was really what you wanted to say to your dad,
Right.
but you never did.
No.
Why didn't you?
I didn't have the guts. I was afraid of him, and I don't think I was articulate enough. And when I wrote the screenplay, that didn't exist. And then I said, "There's something. I got to do something to explain the frustration of wanting to say this, but you can't say it. But you can say it to a door, but." When the man's face is in front of you, I just froze up, and because I was afraid of him.
Of course.
There was no joke. There was no joke, and I thought, my God, this is so great that
Right.
I got a chance to do this in Rocky,
Write it out.
what I couldn't do in reality. But that was pretty much a very biographical moment.
So when all of this was going on, and a lot of
Right.
people I think can experience, they've had situations with their parents where abuse was happening growing up. What kind of survival tactics did you do to kind of, survive the day? I feel like when you're alone.
Survival.
Yeah.
It wasn't as though I had, okay, here's plan A, plan B. I was so caught up in unreality, non-reality, fiction. I never went to school, and I would always kind of identify with cartoon figures, mythical Superman, Batman, this mean, you name it. It got to the point that I actually would sometimes make these horrible costumes out of a barber's cape and a pair of bathing suit and go to school. Under the clothes, I'd feel like I'm the real character.
That's
they don't
so
know that.
cute.
Oh, yeah, I know. It was all right until I
Escapism.
got busted. And then it was pretty embarrassing. Like, we have a special guest here today. Oh, Superboy, would you like to step up?
no.
And I take off my shirt and my bony legs. And I go, oh,
That's
my
actually
God.
so
Yeah, would you like to fly around the room for us? I go, back then they had a thing called a dunce cap.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, gosh.
gosh.
I remember
Oh,
you used
yeah,
to
it actually
speak.
existed. I
That's
know we see it in
crazy.
cartoons. I got,
You got the dunce cap.
Oh yeah, as Superboy.
Oh no!
my God. But that completely makes sense for your childhood to be doing things like that.
Yeah.
You're longing so hard for an idol or a role model or someone to
Right.
look up to. So,
Right.
but you wanted to be that. So
Oh my God! Because I'm sorry, my nose is running. What I wanted to do was just find something that would make me heroic.
Right.
For some reason, I always wanted to garner some sympathy or something,
Right.
and because I wasn't getting it at home, and then I became sort of a thief
Right.
because I would whatever I could find. For example, in my father's pocket to be like $5 or $6. Believe it or not, it was kind of dangerous. I would take the money, let it be 5 ones or quarters or whatever, and go to school and give it to people. Like, you want to be my friend?
Stop. That sounds
sure.
like something Sistine used to do growing up.
what, pay for friendship?
Well, you used to
Yeah.
give people goldfish.
Pay people
Right.
for friendship.
She used to give people goldfish.
Friendship for sale, friendship for sale.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
it seems
Little
like
different.
it seems like a lot of the things that from your parents' abuse, then
Yeah.
the way that they treated you growing up, well, it garnered a lot of attention and seeking that. And then also, do you think a lot of the deep wounds that you got from them created this creative obsessionness that you developed now? Like you were always looking at movies, always writing, always trying to be the hero, as an escapism?
Oh, for sure. There was, I spent hours, that sounds so sick, but there was a really cheap, in my mother's bedroom, 3-way kind of mirror, you get it in, you can see all sides. And if you get in there, you see like 2,500
Of course,
figures
yeah.
of yourself. I would spend hours in that thing because you're moving around and go, look how many friends I have, and look at
Right.
me. And you constantly entertain yourself for hours as opposed to playing sports or this and that.
Yeah.
And it now I look at it, so that wasn't a very healthy thing. But truthfully, I also look at it as this is a preface or a prelogue to where I was going to go. I felt so comfortable in this kind of fake world, imitating songs and this and that, that was my reality. And stepping outside that mirror, it was, I don't feel comfortable at all. Because I didn't hang out with people. I didn't play sports, really. I didn't. I was a troublemaker. I got into a lot of altercations because I was so odd. But I never had a team. Hey, let's go play baseball
right.
and whatever. And no, never. But that mirror in that area, that kind of fantasy world, provided unlimited entertainment for me and escapism.
Well, that makes sense because you're not getting attention from
It
anywhere
makes
else.
sense. I think it's crazy.
No, but
No.
Dad,
What?
understanding how you grew up and what you went through,
Yeah.
you just wanted entertainment. You wanted attention. And
Yeah.
so who was going to give it to you? No one. You make it for yourself. And that makes sense to why you got kicked out of 14 schools, why you get in fights with
13.
people.
Don't get carried away.
So sorry, you guys.
Jeez.
13, my mistake.
Not
Or
that
why you
bad.
got into fights with people because it really was just this longing for attention. And that definitely showed throughout the documentary when you were explaining how, you wanted attention from the public. So you'd go to the theaters, you'd look up at the screen, and all these people are watching that one guy. And you wanted to be that guy.
I don't know if I was that early on, though.
Okay.
I knew that going to films, I was looking for definitely a male role model.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. And those role models were never really what I call good actors. They would be not even cowboys. It would be always mythical figures. Hercules, the seventh voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fantasy, dealing with creatures. So mythology has been my go-to fantasy my whole life. Matter of fact, I believe that my entire career is based on that. In other words, Rambo was mythological. So
Right.
Rambo is kind of like what a kind of weird hero, but he was almost a superhero in times, because how could he survive these battles? He has no skill. He's a terrible fighter. He's this and that. But there was just something that propelled him. And that's my fantasy. Like
Yeah.
people always rising above their abilities.
Right. Well, that's actually funny because Christine and I, we equally agreed on this, and we said
Funny you said that.
we were like, there's this type of, and this is not a take offense to it, but you had this delusion that you were going to be that hero. You are that hero, or you've watched those guys as they were, like who was it, Chris Reeves, that Steve Reeves, that you saw was the iconic, breaks the chains, gets out, and is the hero of everything.
But the delusion was so strong that you came from nothing. You had no support, no money, no education, but yet you still said there will be nothing that'll stand in my way of being that guy on the screen, being the star. How did you even continue that delusion? Because, eventually some people are saying, well, that's a dream. It's going to die. It's not going to be working out for me.
Well, because we're talking about the fact that you went to New York and you were knocking on every single door. People were rejecting you. You would try to go on stage and maybe you get a role in something, but barely anything. You'd create all these films, but you would keep writing and you would just get no.
Right.
But a lot of people, most people, end it there, but you didn't.
No.
Then what was it?
That's a real conundrum because I just thought it was impossible for me to do anything that would be just considered regular, normal. I just didn't think I had the brain for it or the discipline.
Right.
And I had such a kind of fixation on doing something heroic or special. Like I thought, I want to be a great coach. How can I be? I never played a sport in my life, so it's like that. And then I thought, I'd like to be a great horse trainer. I didn't have any horses, but I always looked at it, so I cannot do anything normal, and it bothered me. It really bothered me. I would be so ADD and so consumed with daydreaming.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean bad daydreaming, like where I would be sitting there and in the class, and I don't remember. I went through 3.5 years of college. I don't remember one day.
Well, neither do I.
No, I'm serious. I went to the Ring Theater and tried to do some acting, and they go, you really don't have it, but why don't you learn to work backstage, like moving furniture?
Yeah,
and
right.
I did, and that was it. But I'll tell you, girls, I've found those important rejections and failures to be the best thing that ever happened because it forces you to either quit or say, maybe they're right. I want to try another direction. Maybe I'm not that good an actor, and perhaps I wasn't. But I want to be in the business of, I want to try to write.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was terrible writer. I don't think I ever passed an English course in my life. Ever. But I kind of had a feeling of what people would like in stories, which is like hope, happiness, overcoming. It's kind of a mythological thing. It's like the hero comes through, and I thought that I can relate to as opposed to too much realism. I hated realism. I hate it because the reality is realism is sad.
Yeah.
I want to get in. I really want to get into your writing, but what we're talking about right now, there's a big trend going around. And it's sounding like you originated this trend. It's called, what is it, main character of your life? Basically, this is going around with our generation, and people are saying, you want to be the main character of your life. So everything you do with confidence. You do it, nothing can stop you. No one's going to stand in your way. And you basically were the OG of owning your own destiny and believing it. And I think, your goal and where you ended up is an incredible story, but for the average person, being a Hollywood star is somewhat unobtainable. So what advice would you give to that person that doesn't feel like they can do it, isn't confident enough to finish it, or just something to help them not quit?
I couldn't believe. I said, why would this person who doesn't know me is telling me I'm a failure.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's he?
Right.
This person doesn't know me. You've met me for 5 minutes. Said, you know what? You're not right for this part. And it triggered something that what makes you know me better than I know myself. And that kind of rejection, it's fight or flight, girls.
Right.
You either say you're a liar or I'm a liar, and I'm going to prove perhaps you're lying. But the truth was, I wasn't right. They were right at times, but I never quite gave into it the whole time. Or if I failed, I'll tell you, I remember I went out for this part. It was the only play that Picasso wrote called Desire Caught by the Tail. It was very bizarre. It was all his characters. And the part that I was supposed to play was the half man, half bull. So you were supposed to be a big, muscular guy.
Right.
Okay? The guy they hired was this big, muscular guy. I mean, he was perfect, twice my size. And I said to the director, I think I can do this differently than him.
Yeah.
He goes, we need a big, muscular guy. I said, I'm going to pretend I'm a big, muscular guy. I'm going to act.
Oh my gosh.
I got the part.
What?
I got the part because
Fake it till you
inside
make it.
there was a certain ferocity,
Yeah.
and that came from my father.
Is that I was just about to ask this
rage.
question.
I finally understood, wow, I've got
Yeah.
something going on in there that I don't have a lot of control over, but I know
Right.
it's different.
And that's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, was this inherited or was this learned? And I feel like a lot of this actions that you've made in the beginning, well, it was learned, but it was also inherited. He had this rage in him and that he didn't want to get rejected. I mean, probably his whole life he was. And so he said, I'm not going to take this anymore from not my father, from anybody at this point.
Right.
But then it also was learned. I mean, you have to have this type of, mentality to constantly tell yourself that I'm going to be able to do it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it.
Right.
So I was going to ask you if you thought it was inherited or learned, but it seems like it's pretty much both for you.
It is both.
Yeah.
I think you have personality, then you have character. Personality is what you copy your father, you copy your mother.
Yeah.
She speaks a certain way. You say, oh, you have the same accent. That's personality.
Right.
Character is like looking into a playpen of 10 dogs. Each one is different. It's the same litter.
Right.
But there's 10 different personalities, and that's called character. And I'm telling you, I never doubted for a second that I didn't fit in. In other words, I knew I was different, not talented or whatever, but I said, I was always, I don't know if I ever told you, but I was shot once in the arm.
Huh?
Yeah, I was shot once. It was weird. I went to a...
Mom, did you know he was shot? She said no.
Hold on. This is breaking news on the Unwaxed
I still have a
podcast.
small little scar there. What? No,
She
but
said her eyes are wide.
What is going on?
well, I don't tell you everything, honey. I mean, it's
Okay,
only
so-
36 years.
Got it.
I got to keep some secrets.
Cool. Now you-
So what happened is I went to a church dance. I didn't know anyone there,
okay.
but I just saw a dance and I went in. And this is the story of my life in a nutshell. For some reason, there's a group of guys over there, tough-looking guys. I'm alone. I don't know anyone in this dance. Maybe there's 500 people. Of all the 500 people, they zero in on me.
Oh, of course.
Guy walks over to me, a big Italian guy. He's like, hey, get out of here, or we're going to smack you in the face. Quote. I'm looking around. I didn't do anything. He hits me hard. And I went, whoa. And I'm telling you, I went around. I'm looking around for help. There's no one there. And I put my tail between my legs like an abject coward. And I started walking away. And I was probably 3 or 4 blocks away, going past this parking lot. And I stopped. I said, I can't live with this. I cannot live the rest of my life knowing that some stranger came up and hit me hard for nothing. I said, you got to do something. And I said, what? Go back in. Go back in. So I turn around.
Oh, gosh.
I go back into the church. There's the dance. The music is going. I see this guy. He's standing with his thing, and he's laughing, mocking, like, oh, yeah, I smacked this guy.
I hope
They're
you
laughing.
smacked him. I hope you did.
I turn around, bang, I crack him.
Oh,
He
my.
goes,
Oh, shoot.
but he was so big, it barely hurt him, and he comes roaring at me. So a priest gets in the way. He hits the priest.
What?
Oh, yeah. And then they all start chasing after me. And I'm jumping over fences. They're jumping over fences. They were actually from Rocky's neighborhood. It was called Kensington.
Full circle moment.
Full circle. They
Full
were
circle.
badasses.
Oh, my
So I
gosh.
finally made it to my house.
Yeah.
And they knew where I lived. And they were waiting and waiting. They would call the cops. Cops said, well, they're not doing it. Every time we come, they drive away. And then one night I slipped out and they followed me. And I went going to this bowling alley and I started running and pow! And they shot me through the tricep.
Oh
And
my gosh.
Yeah, and
Wait, how old were you?
16. And I kept going and going and going. And finally, after the shots,
Yeah.
then the police came and then I said, it's these maniacs. And of course, they were gone, but they never came back because they were scared away. But can you imagine? So I realized I always had these moments where, for some reason, I was the guy that got into trouble.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
It's just nonstop. In school, yeah, he's the troublemaker. He's that. So I
Yeah.
go, you sort of stand out, Si.
That was
In a
the
bad
defining
way.
moment.
In a bad way.
Did you ever get annoyed that maybe because of your childhood upbringing, now you have this rage, you sort of became a street thug guy, and then you started getting cast as only that role? Did
Yeah.
that ever bother you?
Yeah, it did, because I saw myself as a funnier person, kind
Right.
of humorous. I would do jokes. I wasn't super social. I mean, I lived in New York for 4 years and never left my room. I never went to a bar, a restaurant, a dance, New Year's Eve.
Was that anxiety or is that just...
No, I just never felt compelled to do it. I don't know why. I would write and I would sit there and watch. I had this black and white TV. But I just didn't feel like I fit in. Like, what do I walk into a bar with a bunch of strangers? I know what's going to happen.
Right.
Because it happened again later on. That's another story.
Oh,
my
Lord.
God. In the 70s, it was a bad one.
Of course.
But, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I want to talk about Lords of Flatbush because
Why?
because that is your
Okay.
ultimate cool ass role.
Really?
Honestly, I thought you were so cool, and seeing you back then all baby faced in a leather jacket, I feel like I can now put a picture to all of the stories that you've been telling us over the years.
Yeah.
But what I found was so interesting about the documentary is that was your first introduction into writing anything.
Right.
When you began to rewrite your lines
Right.
and rewrite them better.
Right.
Do you think that if you had never spoken up in that moment and said to the director, hey, I'm going to improvise, I'm going to rewrite my lines, there ever would be a Rocky? Because you wouldn't have known. Because
wow.
honestly, what if you said nothing and then you wouldn't have had that confidence to go write a script? I think it was that confidence.
You're
that-
absolutely right.
Thank you.
No,
Knew it.
seriously. Because it was it was an okay play.
Yeah.
But my character was just kind of like a dumbbell.
Right.
And I thought, he's got to have some sensitivity. On the outside, and that's the way I was portrayed in real life. I'm not really that way. I look it, but I also have a very sensitive side. And I thought, if I have this girlfriend and she needs to be married, and I don't want to get married, and then she gets impregnated and I buy her a ring, the audience is going to say, yeah, he is a bum and a thug, but God, he's really nice to the girl. In other words, there was something there. And I've always believed that. And then I realized at that point, that was my goal in life. And if I had never done that, to play those kind of characters, I knew
Yeah.
I was never going to be like the Hugh Jackman or I'm never going to play the boyfriend, the lover. I'm always that guy. I remember Woody Allen goes, through a crowd, he goes, God, he looks like a thug. And I was picked out of like 100 people to chase Woody Allen and beat him up. Same thing with Jack Lemmon. I was always the guy, no matter how much I tried.
Yeah.
So when I wrote Rocky, I want to write, look, don't judge a book by our cover. Leather hat, gloves, whatever. But inside, he's like a softie.
But he didn't start out that way, and that was so interesting. Is when you mentioned in the documentary how someone read it and they cried because they said Rocky's a
hated it.
thug, and that's how you viewed yourself. Because if Rocky is you thought you were the thug. You thought that that's what people saw you as, and then the moment that someone caught it and said, "Hey, where's the heart?" That's when Rocky was born. Truly.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. Is the typist said, I hate it. crying. He's such a bully. He's this and that. And I don't care what people say. You are the product of what came before you. In other words, influences. This podcast, there was a person who did that. I like to borrow a little from that. Then I went. So you're always taking things, like Picasso said, and you find your own style. No one's born with this genius style. They are the product of many influences, good or bad. So so with the Rocky character, I went, God, you know what? I was copying De Niro in Mean Streets, who was very mean.
Okay.
He was kind of soulless, tough guy.
Well, it was probably
and that
easier.
was his character.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Right.
And I went, why don't I just? That's really not me. I was trying to be overly New Yorker actory.
Right.
Yeah, I want to be this guy. And I was so nuts. I wanted Rocky to look like all beat up. I actually glued my nose
Dad.
on my life.
Surprise,
so
surprise.
crazy.
I went out and bought colostomy bag glue. You know what colostomy bag is?
No.
Stop.
Well, stop. Why would we know that? That's
Okay. Well, some people have trouble pooping because they have intestinal problems.
That's great.
And they put a bag here.
Oh,
And they glue it.
got it.
It's
I know. I didn't know what that was called.
Well,
Okay.
it's very
okay.
powerful glue.
Yeah.
So I glued my nose because it's crooked anyway. It's been broken, something like this. And I auditioned like this.
Dad.
Yeah, and you're wondering why they were like, we're going to pay you to
this is
not
not
be in
going
it.
to work. I look like such a monster killer.
Yeah.
Take the glue off and perhaps maybe be a little nice. You have a dog, you have this, you have goldfish. But no, I was like, hey, I look terrifying.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
I
now
don't
I
even
bent
know.
my nose straight. Here we go.
That's crazy.
Oh, I never told you that. Yeah.
No, I never knew that.
No. I'm sorry I told everyone. Yeah,
Well,
now that
you're
you know.
full of mystery.
Oh, colostomy
You're
face. That's
full
all
of
Right.
mystery. One of the things I really loved
Yeah.
about the documentary, and it's something Sophie and I can heavily relate to growing up, is your tape recorder. And you recorded everything. And as Sophie had mentioned before, when you were describing Rocky, as you were listening back to your digital diary, we'll call it, you weren't able to admit that it is a love story. Because maybe at the time you didn't understand or couldn't grasp what love was.
No, I didn't.
Was there ever a moment when you were filming Rocky 1 with Adrian, and at that point, when you're in that scene, you're not Sly, you're Rocky, and she's truly Adrian. Do you think that was maybe your first experience of love? The show today is sponsored by BetterHelp. I have recently been on my own therapy journey, and I cannot express how much it has changed my life, especially with the holidays coming up. It's the end of the year, lots of family gatherings. It can be a really overwhelming time.
Yeah, and I've been in therapy, and I totally understand where Sistine's coming from. I'm really proud of her for sharing this. And I think it's important to know that, it's okay to ask for help. And so that is why we are so excited to be working with BetterHelp, because BetterHelp is a super convenient, fast, affordable way, all online, to find a therapist. So you take a test, and then they pair you up with a licensed therapist. And the best part is if you're not compatible with your therapist, free of charge, they can switch you up and find one that's more suited for you.
So, if you want in on this amazing deal we are giving you guys, visit betterhelp.com/unwaxed for 10% off your first month. That is betterhelp.com/unwaxed for 10% off. Find the brightness in your holiday season.
Ho, ho, ho.
I can't honestly say that I ever went into it as a love story.
Okay.
I thought he loved this woman, but I still saw it as kind of like a fight film, a boxer, tough guy, masculine movie. That's what I was making. And then this thing happened,
Right.
which is after it came out. I went, oh my God, you
realized.
fool. That's what made this is her.
Right.
Not the boxing, the love.
Yeah. And that's actually what I was going to ask was like,
So it's
who
a
was
revelation.
she? Yeah. Like, who was she to you? Because if you didn't have any love, you created a love story unintentionally. What was Adrian like
Maybe your
representing in
mom?
your life?
She was just, what she represented to me was another outcast. She was an outcast. I was an outcast. I related to her. Originally, I wrote it with not Adrian in mind. It was a different, tougher person, much harder individual.
Right.
almost like a female me. And all those actresses bailed out, like Cher and Bette Midler.
Cher was supposed to be in Rocky?
Number one choice.
Really?
Yeah. And then Bette Midler had done The Rose, and she was like, I thought this would be kind of interesting. She could be streety and tough. And they turned me down, too, which I don't blame them. I was nobody. And finally, then Susan Sarandon turned it down.
A lot.
But I think she was like too attractive to play the part back then.
Right.
And then in walks Talia Shire, and the ceiling almost fell on my head. I went, what was I thinking? This is a combination of everything.
Right.
And that's what are you looking at me like that for?
No, you know what? That's really interesting that you just said that. Because you're the type of person where your instinct is so good and spot on whenever we do anything artistic or creative that you just know. So what you just said about when she walked into the room, the ceiling almost fell down.
Yeah.
That's literally how you described Mom when she walked into the room for the first time.
Did I?
When you just
Yeah,
know,
you say the earth
you
shakes.
know.
Oh, she ran
out
away.
of here. She's too nervous. It's true. Same
No,
thing.
but that's what it
You
is.
just know.
Shakes.
You
Yeah.
just, but your gut is so accurate, which is
Yeah.
crazy because I sometimes trust my gut. I'm saying, well, fooled me again. That's not correct.
Because you haven't hit the bullseye yet. When you
Okay.
hit the bullseye, your body's just gonna shake. You go, whoa. It's hard to describe. It almost takes your breath away. This person is so unique. I didn't even ask her to audition. Not that I deserve to ask anybody to audition. I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Grown up, because she was just perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, I can't do any better. And luckily, it was all the cast was just perfect.
I just find it crazy. I just thought about this, how you wrote it in 3 days. It's still shocking to me that something so massive was written.
It's not that hard. Because,
Well, how do you not think it's hard?
I'm not a perfectionist. A lot of it was sloppy and useless, but I knew I would get it the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th time around. I think the most important thing in anything we do, not just writing, anybody, is just get to the end zone. I don't care how. And then you can fix it second time around. So I knew writing as I'm going, just get to the ending, get to the final scene, get to the point where you say, I love you, and the scene is over. Done, movie. Then you can start to fix it. But I find the majority of people, myself included, that you're looking for procrastination. You're
Right.
looking for distraction.
Yes.
And it takes 10 months to write a screenplay. A year, sometimes you never finish. And I've
Right.
been that person too. So I tell people, I don't care how bad it is, write 10 pages of garbage, but it's 10 pages. You actually sat down
God.
and accomplished.
I
But
have that
what would
problem.
you tell someone that is really just lagging and they're taking a while and they're procrastinating? Because you were the type of person that went to the extreme and blacked out his windows and didn't leave for 3 days in a row. Now, how do you find that almost fire in your belly to not stop and get it done?
You really want to know?
Yes.
I would call it kind of like mirror psychoanalysis. I'm going to sound like such a maniac here.
We can cut it if you don't like it.
No, I would find myself just sitting there procrastinating. And then I would get up in the mirror and I'd look at myself. I said, you know what you are? You're a lazy piece of shit. You're fucking useless. I hate your guts. You'd rather sit there and do nothing. You know why? Because you're a fucking coward. And I would like I'm literally fighting myself, challenging, humiliating myself.
Interesting.
I said, sit down. I'm going to slap you so hard across your face, you goddamn coward. And it became, it's like me and my father talking.
I was going to
Yeah,
And I
say.
would
me too.
intimidate myself. I said, sit down. I don't feel like it. I'll break every bone in your face. Go and sit on that goddamn chair and do what you can do. I don't give a shit if it's bad. Get on the table.
Wow.
And I mean, I was really violent.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. And this kind of weird analysis of just intimidation.
Yeah.
It's kind of sometimes when you see a coach
Yeah.
go berserk on a player because he knows that player has it in
Right.
him, but he's just not digging deep enough.
Yeah.
And he humiliates this guy. The guy goes, and then he
And it breaks
performs.
him. Yeah.
And
No,
Sorry, I'm just.
it's
but
funny.
That's what I would do.
No, it's funny because in our generation, a lot of people go into the daily affirmations. I'm a victim to that, but where you talk to yourself positively and you say all the good things.
No.
And it's
That's
funny
different.
because honestly, it's so true. Because sometimes when you get told,
Be gentle on
Exactly.
yourself.
But
No,
Dad-
you can't be gentle. You gotta. I'm telling you, I'm a product of intimidation. Of
course.
I
Right.
felt it my whole. I know what intimidation is, and I know what it can do.
yeah, right.
It'll get you off your ass. Trust me.
100%.
Because you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to be hurt, and then you actually are so embarrassed that you're not performing. Let me put it this way: I shame myself into performing.
Interesting.
But it gets harder when you get older because now you start getting successful. You don't feel like beating
yourself
yourself
up.
into one. So, but I still do it at times.
Still
yeah.
today.
Oh yeah, like if I'm doing a scene and before Tulsa King or whatever, and I have to really get it up. I mean, I get in there and I just rip myself to pieces.
Wow.
And when I come out to that set, I look calm, but I'm exploding inside.
When you are
Wow.
having that conversation with yourself in the mirror,
Yeah.
do you hear your voice speaking to you or your dad's voice?
Oh.
Welcome to therapy.
It's not me.
It's not you. Well,
That's what I
okay,
figured.
let's fast forward a little bit because if we're on this
I shouldn't say it. It's my adult me is I can't give total onus or blame someone else because I've heard
Hold
that
on.
voice.
I'm going to blame him. Sorry.
Well, he
know
put,
what?
the, he put the
It's-
rage in you, so
Yeah.
it's not like that's a surprising thing for you to say it's him.
But I had mixed feelings about that too.
Okay.
I mean, we had some. I used to say to him, I wish we were the same age for 5 minutes. He goes, why? He's probably 65. I said, I just would like to pound your head through a wall like you did me. He goes, why wait? Do it. I'm right here.
God, he's so manipulative.
But he was so tough.
So not even
and then
tough.
I started laughing
toxic.
like, God damn, that didn't work.
He
So-
just really could not be intimidated.
No, he's
No.
he's
It's
stoned.
crazy.
This guy is stoned. So
He's the real deal.
It's
Rocky's a success. You're at the top of the mountain. It's fantastic. Rambo comes into the picture, and I always looked at it like Rocky was your emotional.
Rocky's one of the saddest days of my life.
Why?
When it came out. Because, here we go. I should put this in some book someday. I was here a year before I was destitute. I had nothing. I was broke. And it came out. And a miracle happened. And I'm with some of the best films in Hollywood. I'm like, God, I'm in the same category as Best Picture. And these guys are great writers and great Scorsese, just great people.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me a front row seat. And I invited my mother. And she goes, you want me to go with you? I go, I'm up for an Oscar. Yesterday, I was a bum a year ago. She goes, all right, but you have to invite Vivian. I go, who's Vivian? She goes, my hairdresser. I don't have a seat for your hairdresser. It's you and me, front row at the Oscars.
oh
She
my
goes,
gosh.
if you don't invite Vivian, I'm not coming. I go, you haven't seen Vivian in 10 years. She lives in Washington, D.C. He says, I want to see Vivian with me, and then I'll go. Well, she didn't go.
So you just went alone.
Hmm? I think I invited my brother or another guy. But yeah, that was so I have, when people go, you must have loved the Oscars, I go, not
really.
Was there ever
Wow.
one time, and I'm not even going to say Rocky, in your entirety of your acting career, that they ever acknowledged how proud they were of you?
No.
Not once.
You mean them?
Yeah.
No.
But didn't that kill you? Because I think as Sophia and I are going through this right now where we feel our responsibility as your daughter
Yeah.
is to make our parents proud. And that one day when they're all gone, they'll leave this earth knowing that they raised incredible kids that did something well and something that you can look back on and be happy about. And now you are quite literally flipping what your world was coming into it and making something incredible. Didn't that kill you for them to not acknowledge this is a 1 in a billion you are at what you're doing right now?
Yeah, that was evident to me. But the difference is, girls, you were raised so much differently, such a loving mother. My skin was like scar tissue. In other words, after a while, it rolls off your back. And you go, nah, what did I expect? I knew that was coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You become impervious.
Immune to it.
Yeah, and
Here's
that's the kind of thing.
You expected it. It would be shocking if she said she's proud. Yeah,
Hey.
absolutely.
Yeah, I know. It's just the opposite.
So you get to the top. I was going to ask you what your moment that you recall that you knew your life was going to change completely. I don't know if there was like a specific moment, but we can go past that. But you get to the top, and now you're trying to find the validation or whatever it is through the critics, through the reviews, through the audience, and you see that the mountain, because you said some sort of I don't know what it was, but analogy about the mountain being high, but it sucks up there, or
the air is thin.
The
it's
air
hard
is
to
thin.
find
It's
friends.
Lonely at the top.
So how was that pressure? When you get to the top, you're doing all these films. You do Rocky, you do Rambo, and you're at the top. And now they're expecting more, and then you get Fist turns into junk, and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, and all of these other films that kind of Oscar that were kind of flops. How did you maneuver that? Because now you have things to lose. It's a different type of scenario than it was before.
I think a lot of it, I maybe brought it on myself. I didn't think about the project enough, or perhaps I was a bit belligerent. And I think I overcorrected. When Rocky hit, it was like, see, I knew it. I told you, I proved it. It's that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Which turned a lot of people off, and I get that. But it never, it never brought me like real happiness. Like, yeah.
Right.
I didn't, actually, to this day, it's very hard to revel in success. I swear to you, if a movie, like, oh yeah, First Blood came out, it's a big hit, I appreciate it. And never think about it again.
Yeah.
It's like.
Are you obsessed with continuing to push the box, do more, bigger cast, bigger explosion, more surgery, more pain, more money, more reviews, more audience? Like, was that ever happening? Because,
It is, but it's in a different format. For example, you say more injuries. During the filming of this thing, we're talking about back injuries. I had 5. During the filming, I had 2 more. So I have 7 from literally just in the making of SLY. But truthfully, I don't seek out any more grandeur, self-aggrandizement. What I really want to do is be, I guess, a mentor. I would love to have a production company where I can bring in young me's or other people that were perhaps slighted and say, your story is foolish, and go, it's not foolish. Maybe you need to do this, and maybe and I can use all this hard come by knowledge to build something, and I can say, oh, carry on. Thank you very much. I mean, I seek that for you girls. I seek it for all young artists. I don't have anything to prove, really. I think I do. I mean, there's some vacancies in there, but I want to do something that's not, say, about me. I say, here's what I've learned, and I want you to take it and use it. I can help you with this. I can guide you. I can be, dare I say it, parental.
Right.
I have to say that's really refreshing to hear.
It's true.
Because I know, and I believe you.
I swear to you.
I believe everything you're saying. There was a time, I want to say in about 2003, and up until before this, you are the biggest celebrity in the world. Everyone knows your name. You have millions of fans worldwide.
Stop.
Okay, no, I'm not going to blow smoke up your butt anymore,
What?
but you were.
What?
And you have it all. You marry mom.
Yeah.
You have 3 daughters. You have a home. You have an influx of love that is coming at you from every angle. And there was a period around, I want to say 2003 or 4, where you didn't work and you couldn't book a job. I think maybe around 7, 8 years.
Nothing.
And what I found so interesting about your documentary is the amount of parallels. And this particular parallel is one that the audience doesn't know because we lived it with you. So this is private knowledge. But it's not bad. I thought it was fascinating.
Get me out of here, Jennifer.
No, listen, I thought it was fascinating because it made me understand why you did what you did. So for those 8 years, when we were growing up and you weren't working, that killed you.
Yeah.
And what you did was you'd go into the movie theater, lock yourself in there for 10, 12, maybe more hours a day, and just watch film. And when you explained in the beginning of your documentary how when you were lost, you didn't know who you were, you wanted something or someone to look for, some guidance, you'd go to the movie theater and you'd stay there all day.
Right.
And I just thought that was such an interesting comparison. I said, maybe you were doing the
Reverted
same
back.
thing. You reverted back to the way you were when you were a child,
Oh my God. You're
looking
a little
for
too
an answer.
perceptive. Yeah. I guess you go back to...
We're half you, so
No, I'm gonna say, maybe you go back to that womb.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think you were subconsciously trying to find yourself again.
That's the only solace I could find. I felt so useless, really useless. You know, you've been to the top, and wow, that was a rough time. So in one way, people say, "Oh, I'm glad it happened." No, I'm not glad it happened, but it made me a much better performer.
right.
And much more sensitive because I realized this is what life is. This is what people, they don't have this, happy Hollywood ending.
Right.
And it kills me because that's why I like up endings, because life usually doesn't end that way. So why do you have to go out and spend money and see it and feel bad? Because I feel bad enough walking in here. I don't need you to make it worse.
Yeah.
That's my simple philosophy. It doesn't exactly go along with true art,
Right.
but I never said I was going to make true art.
Yeah, and it's ironic that with that period of not working and being in the movie theater for so many hours, you came back by writing Rocky Balboa,
Right.
which was basically the thing that started you in the first place. So you went back to the first thing that you got you to the top, and when you're at the bottom again, you brought Rocky back
Yeah.
into the picture, and you said it was your most proud
By
work.
far, because nobody wanted to do it. I felt so worthless, and I was so embarrassed to be your father, to tell you the truth, because you didn't even know what I did basically for a living.
We saw you in Spy Kids.
Yeah, you thought,
the toy maker.
What does my father do for a living? He just wanders around looking depressed. And I realized you people that you thought were your friends are not your friends. When the good times go away, that's when you find out your family is so important. Because I'm telling you, the ship sailed on me. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But I took all that in, and I thought, if I'm done, and I thought I was definitely done. Phone wasn't ringing. It was done. I was so embarrassed because people did not understand Rocky V. Rocky V was about one of the more real situations that you're so desperate to not be a failure for your family that Rocky basically gave up his family because he wanted to get glory again, even if it was through another man that he forced. His son, he gave up, his wife, he was this and that. And I was not smart enough to realize that's not what people wanted to see because that's what happens.
Right.
That's a little too real.
Right.
And I said, if I can just go back and do one more, because I never thought I'd ever do another movie again, but in my fantasy, I want to do Rocky Balboa, which is about loss, about grief, which is the hardest thing in the world to live with, girls. I swear to you. Oh, shit. It's hard.
I think,
Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know why all of a sudden you get traumatic like that. It's, some shit just comes up. And I said, how can I write a story that I portray that kind of sadness? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the end, it's you purge yourself of it, and that's what Rocky Balboa is about. He loses his wife, he loses everything, and people have, they that's what they experience. But in the end, he purges himself with what he says. I want to get rid of this old pain and put in some new pain. I don't want those memories anymore.
Right.
And it worked. It really worked well. And that's my proudest moment because nobody wanted to do it. And they actually said, you're done. Rocky's
Right.
done. I'm going, these are people that represented me. That were like, I paid lots of
Right,
money to.
right.
And I went, wow, you really are
Yeah.
on your own. And I want you girls to know that your best friend has got to be you. I'm serious. It's great to have best friends and parents or whatever. But then I did that thing I told you about in the mirror. And I said, you come back. You fight.
Yeah.
You get off your knees. You stop feeling sorry for yourself. And you write the best words you've ever written. And I think it is by far.
Yeah.
Rocky 1, I think, has the element of surprise. But Rocky 6 is the best I can. I can't do any better. It's like,
Yeah.
and I thought, and then it was kind of like, oh, it's just another Rocky. I'm like, oh, God, you guys
no,
don't get
I
it.
mean, I think the way that you wrote it, maybe they didn't see it the same.
No,
because
no, they didn't.
That's how you express your emotions, is
Yeah.
through storytelling, is through writing. I mean,
Yeah.
you wanted to address something to mom, you wrote her a love letter. Like everything you did was not conventional, but it was through a story.
Right.
But I also feel like there was something I wrote down. I really wanted to ask you this question because I've seen a lot of the documentary. What you've mentioned a few
Right.
times was the word regret. A lot of
Yeah.
times in the first scene of your documentary, you basically mention how, regrets, even when you were broke, people, offered you money. You almost took it, but you didn't want to regret not having
Right.
that opportunity. I mean, when you were not working for 8 years, you didn't want to regret not putting in the effort to create this
Yeah,
new
exactly
film.
right.
Is regret the driving force?
Without a doubt.
Then?
It's fear, because regret breeds fear, or
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And I'm
Right.
so afraid of that feeling because I know what it's like. Because you can't fix it. You
Yeah.
can't fix yesterday. You can only fix tomorrow. And so it's one of that and redemption. I would say, sadly, redemption it comes along very infrequently.
Yeah.
You have forms of redemption, but you're never whole. It's like, I wish I had listened to my elders, and because
Yeah.
your parents, well, my parents, but some parents would give you all the keys to life. Like we would tell you, don't do that.
Right.
And you go, it's different, our generation. And it's like, and I truly believe that's nature's way of you learning. Unfortunately, you have to learn your way. You can't take my experience
Yeah.
and live through it.
Right.
It's a different experience, a different year, different time, different music. But we want for our kids to go, don't stick your hand in the fire, it's going to burn. It goes, oh, come on, Dad. Ouch. God, he was right.
Right.
Well, you can take that and magnify it 1,000 times, and that's regret that you didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
Do you think you were able to purge a lot of that regret when you finished Rocky 6? Or do you think you still hold on to a lot of the trauma and...
It comes and goes. It comes in waves. You think everything is fine. That's why you never really purge yourself of memories. You can sort of play music loud and be surrounded by hundreds of friends, but then the music goes and you're living in a quiet room and you have that. But you just got to go. That's part of life. Regrets, sadness, discipline, depression.
Yeah.
It's all part of life. They didn't give you a handbook. They should have told you. If I told you at 10 years old, you're going to be miserable someday, you're going to be like, God damn. And then you're going to be so happy you won't even know why.
Right.
Wake up in the morning. Some days you wake up in the morning, you had a nice sleep, and you're in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
I'm telling you, it's so complex, this thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you can only sort of play games with it and manage it. Go, okay, I'm never going to be happy all the time. Deal with it.
Right.
I'm going to be jealous. I'm going to be envious. It happens. I always thought it's so interesting when you see the 7 deadly sins or the 10 commandments, like don't do this and don't do that. It's because our natural instinct is to do those things.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, that's why the wise men wrote it back then. We have this propensity to do not such healthy things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go, but that's the character of the brain. That's why it's so great to have a dog or whatever, because they don't have those thoughts.
Right. Truly.
They're not that complex.
Right.
Where did that conversation go?
Well, I want to sort of tying into that. You always taught us growing up. You always said time is our greatest currency.
Yep.
It is.
It is. And that's something I think Sophie and I live by tremendously just
Do you
because
really?
Yeah.
of course.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the essence of survival. If you blow your currency, you can't get it back. It isn't like, oh, I can take a loan. Do I get an extra 10 years? No.
Well, I'm going to follow that with a very loaded question that's going to be extremely difficult to answer. Okay.
Okay.
If possible, looking back on your entire career as a whole, where do you think you wasted the most time? Where does that regret lie?
Oh, that's not complicated.
Oh.
When I started to rely upon other people's works or suggestions from certain advisors, this is good for your career, this is that, try this and try that, and you're trusting their instincts, and that's where you make your mistakes. Because if you don't feel it, like I told you, when I saw your mother, something was like, boom. If you don't have it committed, say, I love this, I would do this for free. And I recommend every actor to do this, and every artist, please learn every aspect of your business. First of all, the business of business. Be a hyphen, learn to direct, try to learn to produce. If you don't even do it, learn how to do it. Because if you're just a solitary performer, then you're always going to be at someone's behest. They'll tell you what to do.
Yeah, beck and call.
Oh, I got something for you. Or otherwise, you just sit there and you wait like this.
Yeah.
Please. And I found that to be the most important lesson, is trying to learn every aspect of this business. Don't be so complacent and think, oh, I'm just going to be a 1-finger piano player.
Right.
I want to be a 10-finger piano player.
Yeah, it makes you stronger, and it makes you also more of a weapon. And I know that Sistine and I, we've definitely learned that coming through the business, that from you guys, from you and Mom, that knowing all angles, knowing every single corner.
It's fun, too. It's
fun,
interesting.
yeah.
But that also holds true for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a poem written, and I think this really sums up my life, by Robert Frost. It goes, we all dance around in a ring and suppose, but only the answer sits in the middle that knows. You're never going to get to it. You're going to go, what is life? Dancing around, I suppose, I think, you have a philosophy, everyone has a different thing. But no one has what is life. Because there's 8 billion people, there's 8 billion different interpretations of what life is.
Right.
I mean,
Am I depressing you?
no, I have one final question. And
That's
again,
it?
no, I'm so sorry. I think, honestly, this interview...
It's terrible.
No,
it's
Want
great.
your
the
money back?
opposite. I was going to say, I wish we had 3 more hours to keep
I'll
going.
give you
Well, no,
girls
and I
all
have
you
to
want
say,
anytime,
no, but I
you
have
know.
to say, which, and this is something that I think people were the most shocked by watching this documentary, because I know Sistine got this from people, I got this from people, is the fact that, speaking of trying on hats and knowing every single angle of your industry, is that you did it all. You've written, you've you've directed, you acted. People really didn't understand that you were a part of every single, angle of your work. You didn't just give it to someone, you created it, and you are the creator. It's remarkable and it's rare. And I think that was something that we were so proud to hear from people, was that they were crying because they didn't realize your past.
You were just very unexpected. They weren't
exactly.
expecting you to be so smart and so wise. And so going off of what you just mentioned about lessons you're learning in life, to wrap up this incredible interview, what's one lesson that you can leave your daughters today?
Oh my God.
About just a life lesson from all your
Jesus,
years of learning.
I don't know. It's like the lesson lies in learning, and then by teaching people what you know, you also be taught, because they'll tell you things. So the lesson lies in learning, and by teaching, you'll be taught. I know that's very ambiguous, but that's what it's all about. Not thinking you know everything, because how boring would that life
Right.
be?
You don't be the smartest
What is
person in
that
the
old
room.
saying that he who says he knows
Right. Doesn't
know, and he who says he doesn't know knows? That's so important.
I
'Cause
love
I think I
that.
know
Yeah.
everything, and I realize
You
no.
know nothing.
Back to the drawing board. That's why, you see me always looking for like odd, useless facts, but I find it fascinating
Yeah.
that I don't know all these things.
Don't lose
And
your
I never
curiosity.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad,
That's it. Never lose your curiosity, said the cat.
you truly are Curious the Cat.
Oh my God.
We love you. This
love you.
This totally exceeded our expectations.
Are you serious?
We're so proud of you.
Yeah, we are
this
proud of you.
documentary
I
is
thought-
beautiful.
Is there anything else you want us to ask you before we wrap up? Is there anything that in the documentary that was missing that you want to discuss? Because we can do another 5 minutes if there's something you want to specifically be asked, and we can add it in.
I just, I felt in the documentary, what-
Pillows poking up.
Oh, the pillow. Move your pillow a little bit. That way, yeah. Perfect.
Oh, it's good. It's fine now. Just
how's that? Is that okay?
It's better.
you know, you're good.
No, it's all right.
So yeah, is there anything that specifically you want us to ask you and we can input it?
I didn't know all the things I thought I knew about myself. So watching the documentary, I think people have got to realize that they're not alone, that life is incredibly complex and a terrible mystery. It's the thing that can take you the highest, like love. Love is the only emotion that can take you to the highest pinnacles and drop you to hell. The only emotion in the world. And I found that the more love you try to give to other people and stop being so hell-bent on persecuting yourself and feeling loveless, it just makes you feel, God, lighter, better. So I want you all to kiss yourself tonight and be gentle on that sweet pillow.
Oh, oh my
We
gosh.
definitely will. But
Okay.
I hope you know you are so loved. And
I
we
love you.
And
I
we're
adore
proud of
you.
you.
I would die for you girls.
We would
right
die
now.
for you. And
So
thank
would
you.
we.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming on our show today.
This is an incredible opportunity, and we're
It's
not
beyond.
We wrote how many pages? 4, 5, 6 pages of
Sophie and I
notes.
got the exclusive from SLY. What? Okay, well, thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next Tuesday.
And check out Sly, his documentary on Netflix.
Oh, thank you, girls. I love you so much.
Mwah.
And you too, my baby girl.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.